All right, hello K2 scholars, and welcome to another week of virtual learning with me, your teacher, Mr. Farrar. Today we're gonna jump right in and talk about another element of art called shape. We also are gonna further discuss color today. So when we talk about shapes, and I'm not gonna write on the board because it's backwards. It will be backwards. But when we talk about shapes, we know that there are many types of shapes. But I want to talk to you specifically about how to look at a shape and tell what kind of shape it is. So we basically have two types of shapes. We have one type of shape called geometric shapes, and we have another type of shape called free-form shapes. All right, so I'm going to draw a line down the middle. Over here, we're gonna put our geometric shapes. Over here, we're gonna put our freeform shapes. Okay, so how we know that a shape is geometric is that they're, number one, they're usually symmetrical. That means you can, if you cut them down the middle or fold them in half, then they will be the same on both sides. That's generally how we look at geometric shapes. They also have a perfect feel to them. So they look perfect. They look perfectly straight or perfectly rounded if that's what they need to be. So geometric, and I want you to say this along with me, geometric, good, shapes are the perfect shapes. They're symmetrical. If you can pronounce, try to say symmetrical. Try to say that 5 times fast. And they're also very, very perfect like shapes. And we know these shapes by name. So when we draw geometric shapes, we generally all know these shapes by name. And I don't have to tell you what their names are. Okay? So on our geometric side, I'm going to draw several geometric shapes here. I'm gonna do this perfectly as I can. Now, Mr. Farrar, these shapes are supposed to be perfect, but I'm not perfect, so I can't draw perfect shapes, but you get the idea. Let's see here. Okay, and that's all we'll put for now. All right, so I want you to look at these shapes, and we'll go over them. Kindergarten. I'll go over them for kindergarten, but first and second, you guys should know these shapes. Square, triangle, circle, oval, trapezoid, diamond, pentagon, heart, star, octagon. All right? So all of these shapes are perfect in edge. Well, not my shapes that I drew, but they generally, a triangle is gonna have a perfect edge to it. A circle is going to be perfectly round. A star is going to have its perfect measurements to make it a star. All right, so these are geometric shapes, and we use these a lot when we are drawing things that are man-made. We use a lot of perfect shapes to draw them. So if we were going to draw a computer, for instance, which is a very man-made thing, what shape do you think we would identify with the computer? All right, and that would be squares and probably rectangles, something very boxy, because that's what a computer is, basically a square screen with a square-shaped keyboard with a square-shaped base. Even the charger port that we put our USBs inside of a computer is very rectangular or square shaped. If we were drawing something like a, what else is something that's made? A car. What will we identify with a car? We will put probably circle for the wheels, a box for the body of the car, and even maybe boxes for the windows, because that's a man-made object. And a lot of things that men make or people, human beings make, tend to be on the geometric side of things. Just because geometric shapes tend to fit together well. Now we're gonna go to our freeform side. Freeform is the opposite of geometric. These are the shapes that we find a lot in nature. So even though we have star and hearts over here, this is not a real heart. This is not how a real heart is shaped that's in our chest. And that's not how a real star is shaped that's out in nature. But sometimes we can find geometric shapes in nature too. So it's not just saying that we only find these in man-made stuff and we only find these freeform ones in nature, but most of the time we can identify them with one or the other. So our freeform shapes don't really have names. We see them, they're very complex or complicated. That means they're very difficult to draw or measure with a ruler, but they have their own shapes as well. So freeform basically means Alright, so our freeform shapes don't have a specific measurement. They move as they choose. They look a lot more what a word called organic. And you don't have to remember that word because it's a hard word. But that just means they look more natural, nature-like. So these shapes look like leaves. They can look like flowers. They can look like clouds. They can look like animals. Like a duck. But these are our freeform shapes. So in the videos that you'll be watching for this week, you'll be looking at what shapes are, how we use shapes, and how they help our art. Because when you look at something and you want to draw it, you first have to understand what type of shapes it has. So if I was looking at my hand like we did with our contour drawings, then I would look at my hand and look at what types of shapes I see in my hand. Are they freeform? Are they more geometric? And then we could go from there as far as trying to draw our hand or draw whatever it is that we're trying to draw. So I look forward to seeing your artwork that you're gonna do for this week based on what I'm gonna include in Google Classroom for you to see and for you to work with. I always encourage you guys to send me your artwork by email or send it to your teacher and they can send it to me. So I look forward to seeing your artwork and seeing you next week.